Fáilte a cháirde go dtí Ollscoil Heicneolaíochta Bhaile Clia. I'd like to welcome you all to the 5th biennial Dublin Gastronomy Symposium, the last in our Cattlebrew Street campus, but the first in our newly formed technological university. When we were choosing the theme, Food and Disruption, What Shall We Eat Tomorrow, a number of years ago, little did we think that our world would be so disrupted that we could not even hold the symposium as normal, but that we'd have to adjust to an online version. Our motto in the hospitality and particularly in the professional cookery industry is innovate, adapt and overcome, maintaining the philosophy that the show must go on. So the first thing I need to do is I need to acknowledge the Trojan work that has been carried out by the DGS organising committee to enable the symposium to transfer from a normal terrestrial event to an online one. Particular thanks goes to Anke Klitzing, who has been a dynamo behind marshalling the authors, peer reviewers, session chairs, so that all the papers could be made available online prior to the symposium starting. Brian Murphy and Yvonne Desmond and her team in the library services have been central to providing the technological know-how and logistics to enable the symposium to go online. This is a real team event and team effort, and I wish to thank all the committee, strengthened and re-energised by new members this year, all the reviewers, the chairs, moderators, social media organisers, and particularly I'd like to say a thank you to Peter Hertzman in San Francisco, whose typesetting of papers has brought an extra level of professionalism to the proceedings. I'd like to thank my head of school, Dr. Frank Cullen, and all my colleagues in the School of Culinary Arts and Food Technology, TU Dublin, who have supported the symposium continuously and enthusiastically from its initial outing in 2012. One of the benefits of actually going online is that it has opened us up to a wider global audience than may normally be the case. So the DGS emerged 10 years ago from collaboration from two separate institutes of technology, DIT and IT Tala, when the rumours of mergers and of a technological university were considered by many as only a pipe dream. Today, we are all colleagues in the new TU Dublin, and the next DGS will be happening, fingers crossed, in the purpose-built university campus in Grangegorman in 2022. In 2012, the first Dublin Gastronomy Symposium received great support from Fáilte Ireland, who were promoting their new food tourism initiative at the time. In 2014, we launched Tickling the Palate, Gastronomy in Irish Literature and Culture, published by Peter Lang, including a number of chapters from speakers at the 2012 symposium. 2016 led to two new innovations. We launched the DGS Fellowship, and we started the first post-symposium food tourism field trip for visiting speakers to the Boyne Valley. We also launched the Royal Irish Academy, the Food and Drink in Ireland publication at the DGS in 2016, which has strengthened the canon of Irish food history. In 2018, we celebrated the launch of a special issue of a food issue of the Canadian Journal of Irish Studies, co-edited by Rona Richmond-Keneally of Concordia University and myself. And I have to say that the Canadian Journal of Irish Studies challenges even Gastronomica under the editorship of Dara Goldstein as the most beautifully designed journal ever, absolutely gorgeous. In 2020, now in our fifth iteration, we are not only going online, but we can announce that a new food journal will be formally launched later this year called the European Journal of Food, Drink and Society. Apart from the journals and books, we have a number of other developments in the DGS in the last four iterations. And actually with the European Journal of Food, Drink and Society, if any of you have papers or articles in process and you're looking for a good home where they would be peer reviewed and made freely available online, consider the European Journal of Food, Drink and Society. Now, some of our other, I suppose, what I believe to be the most important development over the last, since we started the Dublin Gastronomy Symposium, has to be the new friendships, the networking and professional collaborations that have grown and been nurtured year by year. We are part of the broader food community, and many of us are regular attendees at the Oxford Symposium on Food and Cookery, which actually is the origin really and the inspiration for the DGS 10 years ago. For many of us, the DGS and other food conferences, they provide, we need, as academics, chefs, writers, restaurateurs, or simply food enthusiasts, we all need to go to the well from time to time and be refreshed and re-energized on our journey. For many of us, the DGS and other food conferences provide that elixir as we get to immerse ourselves with like-minded kindred spirits, our food family, as it were, and to forget about our non-food worries for a while. For many of us whose partners, families don't really get our food nerdiness as such, symposiums are a safe place where we feel at home, and our curious inquisitiveness and our ways of, we get to meet our own food tribe. A Finnish academic, Irma Tikkanen, writing about food tourism and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, she put international food conferences and symposiums up at the highest level of self-actualization in her model. So it's wonderful to be able to think that we're achieving this mutual online self-actualization this year, but hopefully in 2020 we will all be back to meeting and dining with each other physically, not virtually. I would like to mark a few achievements since we first met in 2012. A number of regular symposiums, or symposiasts, such as Brian Murphy, Marjorie Deleuze, Dorothy Cashman, Elaine Mahan, Siobhan Goff, Marzena Keating, Graham Harding, Keelan Tobin, Alison Vincent, among others, have successfully completed their PhDs and MPhils in that period. In 2017, we successfully started a Master's in Gastronomy and Food Studies here at TUD, and many of our first, current and future potential graduates are registered for this year's symposium. This year again, we're delighted to honour two giants of the field of food studies and food research with the DGS Fellowships. The Dublin Gastronomy Symposium Fellowship Award is being presented to Patricia Lysett, Professor Emerita at European Ethnology and Folklore at University College Dublin, in recognition for her contribution to Irish culinary history. In particular, we'd like to acknowledge her groundbreaking work as a folklorist on Irish food tradition, on her research in a broad range of topics from milk and butter, tea, travel, food provisioning on the Blasket Islands, seabirds and their eggs, to hospitality at wakes and funerals in Ireland. Her work is well known by researchers in the food studies and gastronomy field, and to culinary education here in Ireland and abroad. And her work casts a light on the stories and storytellers, and on the warm generosity and hospitality within the Irish culinary heritage. The Dublin Gastronomy Symposium Fellowship Award is also being presented to Máirtín Carraher, Professor Emeritus in the city of the Centre of Food Policy, City University of London, for his trailblazing dedication to public health and health promotion, and his battle to resolve high levels of food poverty in modern societies over the past 30 years. We're happy to welcome him back to Cattle Brewer Street, albeit vicariously, where he walked the halls as a trainee environmental health officer back in the 1970s, and also where in 2012 he gave a paper entitled Cooking in Crisis, Lessons from the UK at the inaugural DGS. Máirtín will give an overview of his work, his years working in food policy and health promotion, on Tuesday in a pre-recorded presentation, so be sure to tune in and to listen. So before I outline the coming week's highlights and special keynote addresses, I'd like to take a moment to remember a good friend and colleague of ours in Cattle Brewer Street, Diarmuid Murphy, who we laid to rest earlier this month. Máirtín Carraher refers to W.B. Yeats in his talk, and Diarmuid's son, Diarmuid Óg, recited W.B. Yeats' poem, The Lake Isle of Innisfree, at his father's ceremony there earlier on. The Lake Isle of Innisfree by W.B. Yeats. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, and a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There's midnight all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for almost always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey. I hear it in the deep heart's core. While looking back at a promotional video done of the DGS, or after the DGS in 2016 on YouTube, Diarmuid featured in many of the clips, whether greeting a new symposiasts coming in at the door, or whether, I suppose, imparting them with nuggets of wisdom over tea. Diarmuid was a proud Londoner of Irish parents and was a core pillar in our new MA in Gastronomy and Food Studies, and also the lead lecturer in gastronomy for a number of years here in TU Dublin on our undergraduate programmes. The numerous and glowing tributes left by his students online following his death was testament to just the brilliance of his teaching and the deep humanity of the man, who often went above and beyond the call of duty for his students. In Ireland, we are good at dealing with death normally. We do funerals well. But this tradition, this age-old customs of wakes, funereal humour, burial, post-funeral meals and drinks, and general celebration of the life of lost ones has been seriously disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. A number of us gathered at a social distance outside the railings of the crematorium in Glasnevin Cemetery when Diarmuid was being laid to rest, and just before his family brought his coffin into the church, we sang him 2 verses of the song The Parting Glass, which coincidentally features in Jonathan Brumberg Krause's paper this Thursday. Of all the money that e'er I had, I spent it in good company, and of all the harm that e'er I've done, alas, it was to none but me. And all I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all. Of all the comrades that e'er I've had, they are sorry for my going away. And of all the sweethearts that e'er I've loved, they may wish me one more day to stay. But since it falls into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and I'll softly call. Good night and joy be with you all. Diarmuid has joined the other food heroes who have passed since our last symposium, including Myrtle Allen, Anthony Bourdain, Richard Hoskins, Michelle Roux and Gary Rhodes. They and all our loved ones who have recently passed will be sorely missed. Yesh day gra an anam ursel. Sovna shiri agus labba amasna nangle aquilig. May they rest in peace. Getting back to the exciting DGS programme, I could not think of a better pick for a keynote speaker on the topic of food disruption than Professor Tim Lang. and we were really looking forward to welcoming him to Dublin. He has done a wonderful job on the keynote address, and he has outlined, nearly given us a history lesson of food and disruption from the Neolithic period all the way through the many different revolutions up to the present day. He has also outlined quite a number of the key philosophers, I suppose, and the key thinkers and political thinkers who have developed the process of I suppose, capitalism as we have today, that in many ways has led us all the way through to this sort of environmental disruption and disaster and crisis that we currently live in. But one of the things I love about Tim is his glass half full approach, in the way that he managed to offer us very glimpses of hope in the midst of some stark figures amongst all the data that he has gathered. I have recently completed his book, Feeding Britain, and it's a wonderful publication, and I recommend it highly to you all. So having 5 days instead of 2 has allowed us also to expand our usual number of keynotes. And I am delighted on Wednesday, I'm delighted to say that Professor Donnelly Bryan from Central Queensland University will be bringing us a presentation, sort of a letter from Australia, as it were, outlining and bringing us through the horrible year that they've had with drought first, followed by horrendous disruptive bushfires, and then, a bit like the rest of us in the world, how they've dealt with the whole COVID-19 situation. On Thursday, we get to hear from the coalface, as it was, in Irish hospitality industry. And I'm sure it mirrors the coalface all around the industry, all over the world. We will hear from the winners and losers. Some people have done very well out of this. Other people have lost their jobs and livelihoods. Mary Farrell, executive chef in Máirtín's, which is a food retailing place in Dublin here. They've done extremely well because they have boomed really in this new normal. We hear from Olivia Duff, hotelier from Headford Arms in the hotel in Kells in County Meath, and they've had to shut down the hotel, furlough staff, but they're gradually changing, innovating, and they've started a food delivery and a sort of contactless service which they're rolling out. We'll also speak with Jess Murphy from Kai Restaurant, the award-winning Kai Restaurant, chef proprietor there in Galway. And again, her restaurant has had to close, and she has been helping out quite a number of food retailers in Galway. And I believe after her talk on Thursday, she needs to help out a local fishmonger, so she may even appear in fishmonger attire. To chair the panel, we're delighted to have Catherine Cleary, a food journalist and restaurant reviewer with the Irish Times. And indeed, Catherine herself has been recently furloughed because there are no restaurants to review. Who would have thought at these times? So to complete the week of our keynotes, we are really delighted to have Professor Fabio Parasicoli, who is director of the Food Studies PhD program in New York University, speaking to us live, followed by a question and answer session. His title, Where Has All the Flour Gone? Thinking Systematically About Food and Disruption, brings a few things to mind. There's a slight irony that at this time there's been a splurge or a craze for sourdough bread in Ireland, and so much so that there's been a real shortage of strong flour. I've heard a number of stories of people meeting in empty car parks and exchanging white powder surreptitiously, since I believe strong flour is nearly harder to get than heroin in Dublin at the moment. Interestingly as well, the home of sourdough, that in Germany, that they've started, because again there's a shortage of yeast and of strong flour, that they've actually taken to produce traditional Irish soda bread in Germany. So it would be true disruption, you could say, that if the Germans ended up spreading their Irish Kerrygold butter on Irish traditional soda bread and not their normal sourdough. On the same theme, I will finish on a poem that I heard from Phil Jupitus. I heard him recite it at the first ever Food on the Edge in October 2015. 15 down in Galway, and it's called You Don't Bring Me Flowers. He laid the box before her, smiled at his achievement, unloaded each component, and he ordered them with style. There was plain and their self-raising in types both weak and strong, wholemeal and organic that doesn't last so long. There's walnut, rye and cornflour, almond, rice and spelt, chickpea known as besan, and arrowroot as well. I got some malted wheat grain, not to mention good old brown, peas meal and cassava, you can really go to town. Potato, hemp and sorghum, tapioca too, soba, buckwheat, coconut, I bought them all for you. She shook her head and left that day. It only took 2 hours. And her note read, what I said was, you don't bring me flowers. I would like to close by reiterating my thanks to all the DGS organising committee, the keynote speakers, the panel speakers, the chairs and moderators, reviewers, and everyone who has contributed to make this online symposium such a great success. And I hope you will all go away intellectually and socially reinvigorated and energised. We will be providing a sort of vicarious experience of Ireland through some of our virtual Ireland online digital videos and music sessions and all that sort of stuff. So please, since you can't make it here, please explore Ireland vicariously through those resources. And we will also hopefully be using the www.thepub.ie app to meet virtually over a glass of wine, craft beer or whiskey, and perhaps even sing a song or two. So, slán agus beannacht and enjoy the week. Gura maithagui.